Our next speaker is Kavita Arora. She is the founder of Bangalore Makespace and OpenSource Creativity. Kavita is going to talk about what is civic hacking and how the maker movement is helping to solve urban problems. Our next speaker is Kavita Arora, founder of Bangalore Makespace and OpenSource Creativity. Our talk is about what is civic hacking and how is the maker movement helping to solve the urban challenges. Kavita Arora is a technologist and service designer interested in learning how to apply technology to social ideas. She founded Bangalore Makespace and OpenSource Creativity back in April 2013, which is now Asia's largest community of makers on the same platform. Please welcome on stage Kavita Arora from Bangalore Makespace and OpenSource Creativity. Kavita's topic is what is civic hacking and how is the maker movement helping to solve urban problems. I would request people at the back, people at the bar counter, to please lower your volume. We are having our next speaker starting their talk now. We want to make sure that everyone is able to hear it. Thank you. And we have some more spots left in the front. You can make yourselves comfortable here. Thank you. Over to you, Kavita.
Thank you for that very kind introduction. I'm a little short, and the mic is, I think it was, positioned for Manu's height. So I'm going to do my best. If somebody can't hear me, just, yell or something like that. So I can't see a lot of you because, I'm being sort of flooded with these floodlights, but that's a good thing, I guess. Because if anybody is, yawning or scowling because they don't like what I'm saying, then, I won't know. But first of all, thank you Sustainability Drinks for having me over. This is my first Sustainability Drinks meetup actually, so, I finally made it. To kind of, put my topic into perspective, I'm kind of going to introduce myself, but I'm going to also ask you guys a couple of questions so that I can, answer the questions that you have, and we can follow it up to the Q&A as well. So as Dhaval mentioned, Kavita Arora, I started a maker community about 3 years back, well, 4 now, and it slowly mushroomed into this really large social network. We started out on Facebook. We called ourselves Bangalore Makespace and OpenSource Creativity. And we stuck to the name, even though it was long. There are lots of people who keep making mistakes. What does Makespace mean? What is a makerspace? It was during, the beginning of 2013, I was on a business trip in London, and I'd come across this wonderful facility in East London called the London Hackspace, which is another reason why, it's Makespace and not Makerspace. And I saw, so many interested people, so many people like you guys, who came together under this common banner that what do we do, how do we solve problems, how do we fix our city, how do we fix society. I say that, with a very sort of, I say that not to take it in the wrong way, but I say that in a way that people wanted to actually stop talking and start doing things. And so that was sort of the reason, I resonated so much with that principle. And I said that when I come back to Bangalore, I think this is such an empowering thing. And I was always attending events on environment and sustainability, and I said that this is my chance to actually do something instead of just talk about doing stuff. And so, a community of like 10, 20, 50 people suddenly became 100, 500, and now we've got about 21,000 people on our Facebook group. Now, that's not really, it's not abnormal because, Facebook, they're always trying to get more people. I'm actually making a lot of money for Facebook because a lot of people are on the group and, they're joining Facebook, and that's what Facebook wants. They should actually start paying me out. But anyways, so it became this collaboration platform with people asking questions, but how do I get stuff? Where can I go to Bangalore and buy LEDs or buy diodes? To give a little bit of context about what are makerspaces. So makerspaces are these collaboration centers where people come in. They sometimes pay a membership fee to access resources. and they collaborate together to solve problems or to make things, to make projects. Now, a lot of these projects you might have heard would be like, fancy art installations, or they could be very simple things like, how do I fix something in my house, or how do I, learn a new skill, like I want to learn computer programming, so, where can I sort of find this and do that? And so that was sort of the ethos by which we started this group, to get like-minded people to come together and realize that you didn't need to go to an institute, or you didn't need to, go for a corporate training to learn emerging technologies, so to learn next generation skills. And that's sort of what we tried to implement in Bangalore. We finally have a space of our own. We're located in Sadashiv Nagar, very close to Military Circle, and we're actually open to the to anybody, to the community. And all we ask in exchange is that you teach something, or you give something back to the community. You either take a class, or you make something with us, and show that you can do more than just talk. And so that was sort of the why civic hacking. So now I'm going to sort of go and sort of find out, how many of you have heard of the term civic hacking? And I'll try my best to see the hands. So civic hacking, anybody? Does that name resonate with anyone? Yeah? No? You guys? No? Okay. Okay, so it's sort of what you think it means, right? So civics, about your environment. What do you do? Like, for example, how do you stop people spitting on the road, for example, right? Or how do you stop people littering? Or how do you create a greener, cleaner Bangalore? And then hacking would be, sort of like, okay, let's create an intervention of sorts. So you've got some very, very good examples of civic hacking that take place in Bangalore. I Changed My City. I think some of you might have heard of that. It's one of those very popular web portals where you report problems, like, for example, there's a pothole in front of your house, so you'll go and you'll say that, okay, there's a pothole here, and I want the authorities to fix that. So that's a kind of example of a civic hack, because you're helping governance do its job in some way. You're helping municipal organizations do their job in some way. And then these hacks actually start becoming a lot more elaborate, because there are a lot of stakeholders involved, and there's a design process that has to be put in place. So, it starts out with a hack, or in our culture, jugaad. It starts off with doing something jugaadu, and then it gets into something a lot more developed, and then that's where your service design, or you all become designers, and you all start to think, okay, how can I get that pothole fixed correctly, in the right way? At the right time, so that it doesn't disrupt traffic, and so forth. And so all these questions start to, occur to you. And then you start thinking about, okay, well, I don't know what time the bus comes to the stop in front of my house. How can I make this better? How can I find out, from BMTC or whichever agency, that what time the bus is going to come? And you create an app, or you create some kind of innovation that helps you figure out, and help not just you, but other people too, about how you can, take the bus easier. And so these sort of, these small hacks, or these small thoughts lead to larger, systems of change. And why are makerspaces important? So as somebody who runs a makerspace and a maker community, a lot of what I do is curate that community. I mean, I kind of make sure that nobody posts, irrelevant ads like, oh, I have a one-bedroom flat, who wants it? And that kind of stuff. And more, more towards like, okay, I'm looking for collaborators, and I want to do something. I want to make a garden. So, Manu's talk was quite empowering. Like, he was talking about why are we focusing on, things? We should sort of, like technology, for example, how can we use technology to actually do something awesome, like clean the air of our city, or, just help citizens get around better, or things like that. So a lot of civic hacking kind of, goes into this, it puts you as a citizen, it gives you the power. So a lot of what the Ugly Indian, for example, they're a great example of civic hacking, because, I mean, it's more like a mob style, like you do this and they're anonymous, and, there's so much impact. And so there's a lot of, social impact that comes as a result of that. So, it depends on how you want to operate. You can be known to do civic hacking or not. I just think that it's something that I think we should start thinking about. And as a makerspace, it's it's one of my sort of mandates for this this year and next year, and to kind of create the civic hacking community and figure out how technology and how emerging like tools and hardware and software, how can we all use that in order to make our city better. So I wanted to ask if people have any questions, if they've got any specifics about what maker spaces are or what making is, how they can get involved, what they can make, and any questions? Yeah.
So you have a bunch of people who are coming up with ideas and who are executing these ideas. Do you also help? So you know that there's a gap that there is to fill, and you also happen to know that there's this collaboration that is happening in your Makespace. Do you connect the two and try and plug the gaps? How does creation, like the need for creation is something that everybody wants to create, but a lot of times creation is not stemmed by an immediate need that it is meeting, or a bigger or another alternate need which I am not aware of. If I am creating something, there might be somebody else who needs it, but in a slightly altered way.
Okay.
Does Makespace do that?
Yeah, definitely. We do everything. We even put you guys in a good mood. If you're had a bad day at work, you can come and hang out with us, and we'll help you get over that that awful argument that you had with your boss. Anyways, no. So to answer your question, yeah. I mean, as you know, solving a new problem is a stepwise, multi-stakeholder approach. First of all, you need to ask yourself, okay, why do I want to solve this problem? Is this problem something that how important is it to me? Because when you start, when you stop thinking about the problem and start doing something about the problem, reality sort of checks in, and you figure out that, okay, I want to solve this problem, like I want to fix all the traffic lights in Bangalore. And then you start thinking, do I have the money to do that? Oh, do I have the ability to do that? Do I have the not just the connections, but do I have the technological background to do that? And then and that's what the Makerspace does. It sort of helps you understand the steps that you need to follow. Like about 2 years ago, I never thought that I could use a 3D printer or code my first chatbot. I'm not a very technical person. I studied engineering, but I've been hands-off tech for a long time, just like everybody in Bangalore. Everyone is like a manager, they work in MNCs and they talk and they think about, okay, you should do this, you should do. So I was literally, I was sitting at a desk, and my only skill was how to use a computer, how to do Excel, how to check email, and how to say no at the right time. Because a lot of people will be like, can you do this? No, I can't do that. So then I stopped thinking about how to say no, and I said okay, how do I say yes to a lot of things? Let's say I want to solve this problem. And so really, that's where I kind of became more of a designer. And I call myself a service designer because a lot of these interventions or the problems that you're trying to solve, it really requires all these steps to be put in place. You identify your personas or your people who the problem is going to affect, and you think about, okay, how would they want this problem to be solved? As somebody who wants to solve a problem, that's fine. I have a valid reason. But what about the people that I'm solving the problem for? Yeah.
So my question is this, right? When I think of hacking and sustainability together, right, there's not a lot of work that, a lot of projects that come to my head, right? You mentioned something about air purifier, that kind of thing. Can you talk about some of the projects you have seen in the Makespace?
If you think about solutions, China is doing some interesting stuff with air pollution. They're seeding clouds to create false rain or real rain, but when they feel like it. And that kind of technology is not really available off the shelf. You kind of have to be a government, or like the Environmental Protection Agency in the US, some of you might be aware, to actually be able to access technology like that and do things like that. But how can a makerspace, or how can an individual actually do something to create that? And that's where the whole civic hacking comes in as well. So an example of a makerspace way of solving the problem is building a simple pollution monitor. Okay, pollution monitor would be, a collection of sensors that take, like, let's say, amount of dust material in the air, amount of noise pollution that comes, amount of temperature and humidity. I mean, these are all factors, these are all single points that can, you can create a visualization based on, you can create a problem set based on. And you multiply the amount of sensors that you have and put them in different points of the city, and then you've got some sort of a monitoring solution going. Now, this doesn't really solve the problem, it doesn't clean the air, but it's a step closer to actually doing something. The data that you collect, which you refine over time, you make your sensors better, you make your pollution monitors better, more effective, you're actually creating like a source, and then you give this data, and other people work on it, and that's where the reports are made, and that's where policies are actually created.
Are there other examples like this?
Yeah, I mean, like, for example, we've been focused on right now creating an aquaponics and a hydroponics solution. So, for example, rooftop gardens, and how do we do it without soil? How do we create that? And that's a very popular Makespace project. So, there's a lot of tech involved, and it's, a lot of people want to do, and there's a way that you can commercialize that as well. Another example of that would be like growing your own food. So, for example, the huge part of the maker movement. How many of you have heard of OpenSource beer? Has anyone heard of OpenSource beer? So, beer is actually not a proprietary thing. Okay, it doesn't. Kingfisher has their own, recipe, but actually, every one of us we can all make our own beer. All right, we can all make our own. There is certain open source. This is like a recipe that's been published on the web. You can follow the steps and you can recreate that. And that's sort of what the whole open source movement is. So like how I built a pollution monitor, or how I built, created a mug of beer. I can actually put that on the web for other people to follow. And so that's something that a lot of people do. Like a lot of vegan lifestyles initially stemmed from people growing their own food. And then that grew up the community gardens and CSA and things like that. So yeah, if I think of more, I'll let you know.
Do we have many more questions? We can take one last question. Yes.
Hi, I'm
Hi.
Darsha.
Hi.
And so I wanted to know that have you ever come across any challenges where you are creating any product or service or anything like where you are looking at the aspect of sustainability, but at the same time you are grappling with the government policies and those laws? What kind of steps you have taken at those point of time? Something like that happened.
Okay, since you haven't specified the actual nature, I'm just going to answer it in my way. Yes, I have. This might not be the answer that you're expecting, because I consider what I do to also be creating a product. So I'm creating a product where I try and get people like you guys to come and work together, right, to solve problems. Now, that also has to become a sustainable business. So I prefer to call myself a social business. I don't really like the term social enterprise. I don't like the term charity, and I'm definitely not as for-profit as I'd like to be. But it's tough, because the kind of equipment that we get, it's sort of, we get pennies from the public because we can't charge too much. We have to keep our rates low so that, we're open to as many people as possible. But the kind of equipment, like we buy 3D printers, we buy laser cutters, we buy very advanced robots, and all of that goes into like the lakh range. So how do we create sustainability? So this is a point of frustration for me, because now I've got to start thinking about innovative financing. How do I finance my community? And members don't necessarily come with money bags. They don't say that, hey, I want to give you like a couple of crores, like do whatever you want with it. And you really have to fight for that, as anybody who's tried to raise money or raise funding in a social enterprise setting would have to do. So yeah, I'm still trying to figure it out, and I'm still trying to figure out the whole Make in India policy, because a lot of it doesn't really seem to address my problems. A lot of it is sort of targeted towards foreign investment, like they're trying to attract people, and so Make in India is nothing but a social media campaign. It's just like, hey, Make in India, we're not going to do anything for you, but do it anyways. So that's my view, and it might not be very popular with some of you, but I just think that it's about time that we start becoming a little real and start to acknowledge that these policies need to start working for us, because right now they're not. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's much more than a design problem. It's a lot of it is just having, there are political reasons for why funds don't flow in a certain direction, and there are political reasons for why funds do flow in those directions. So it really goes beyond like the designer. It starts, then you start getting into things like policy management, and you start, talking to the government about different things.
Thank you, Kavita. I will have to end
No
the session
problem.
now
Blame it on these guys. They have too
in the
many
interest
questions.
of time. Thank you. Can we have a big round of applause for Kavita, please?
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.